Hey, it is day 5, FCF. We're in a series we're calling Preparing for the Increase. And what I'm really talking about is our need to prepare now and increase our spiritual strength, our mental, emotional health, everything that we can to prepare us for a season in this world's history where there's going to be more pressure than humans have ever experienced before. There's going to be more deception. There's going to be change at a rapid pace that we've never seen before. And so it's critical that we prepare now, that we increase in some vital areas now. Today we want to look at increasing our dependence upon Christ. Now we might be thinking, well, I depend on Christ for everything all the time, but it's going to have to increase. We're going to have to get where we can literally be comfortable depending upon Christ for, life to get through the day. Food for a day. I'm not saying these things will happen. I'm just saying we will be wise to deepen our dependence on Christ. Let me read you some stuff from 2 Corinthians to start with. The Apostle Paul, he had been serving Christ for about 22 years when he writes this. He's in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8. He says, "We don't want you to be uninformed, brothers, about the hardships we suffered in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure." There's that term thlipsis again, tribulation, far beyond our ability to endure. So it was beyond. The pressure was so bad, he said we couldn't endure it, so that we despaired even of life. Indeed, in our hearts we felt the sentence of death, but this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God who raises the dead. So Paul said he was overwhelmed with his circumstances, mentally, emotionally, maybe physically too, and he said, but God allowed him to come to the place where he was done. He had nothing left, so that in his desperation, he would learn how to cling to God, hold on to God, draw strength from Him, that strength that even raises the dead. We have to learn, we have to increase in our dependence, our reliance on God to sort of bring us back again when we think we're at the very end of things. Let me share one more with you from Paul in Philippians chapter 4. He writes this from a prison cell, but he writes some really interesting stuff. Philippians chapter 4, verse 11. He says, "I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content." Notice it was a process. I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. We need to increase our dependence on Christ so that we can learn to be content in any circumstances. He goes on in verse 12. He says, "I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do everything through Him, through Christ, who gives me strength." If you listen carefully, Paul was saying the way that he learned to be content by his dependence on Christ is by going through all the differing seasons in life, having what he needed and not having what he needed, having plenty, having nothing. He said it was as he clung to Christ in all those differing circumstances that he learned, I really can, because of Christ, because of His strength that He infuses in me, I can learn to be content in any and every circumstance. We have to increase our dependence on God like never before. Any things that you think you can do to increase your dependence on God, start doing those things now. Picture yourself like you're building up for a marathon. You know the race date is coming and you're in serious training. Now is the time for us to increase our dependence on Christ so that when we have to depend on Him utterly, we will already be used to living that way. Paul said he learned that he could do everything through Christ who strengthens him. So can you.